What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Monday, February 22nd. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we got a 6-game main slate tonight starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. So let's take a look at the point guard position. I'm going to give you a value play here. I like Tyus Jones from the Memphis Grizzlies playing the Dallas Mavericks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing point guards. Tyus Jones has averaged 22.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 23 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He scored 21, 16, and 11 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 19, 15, and 22 minutes. He had a 27% usage rate last game, and he's projected at 19.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.9 times value. He's 4,000 FanDuel salary and 200 less on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 229.5 points scored in this game, so we have a high-scoring game, and he scored 29, 26, 28, and 25 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Dallas Mavericks. So that's excellent player versus team history. So I like Tyus Jones here versus the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, another point guard that I like here tonight is Kendrick Nunn from the Miami Heat playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have the second worst defense overall, and they give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Kendrick Nunn has averaged 23.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He scored 46, 25, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 39, 31, and 40 minutes. So his minutes are up from his season average, and he's projected at 25.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.6 times value. He's 5,600 FanDuel salary and 100 more on DraftKings. But I think if he's going to be playing 35 or more minutes per game, I think he can score at least 30 fantasy points here and get you 5 times value or more. Vegas thinks there's going to be 213.5 points scored in this game, so it's a great matchup. We're just counting on him getting over 35 minutes in this one, so I like Kendrick Nunn here versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns playing the Portland Trailblazers, who have the 11th worst defense overall, and they give up the 12th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Devin Booker has averaged 35.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 31% usage rate. He scored 34, 30, and 36 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 26, 30, and 36 minutes. He's projected at 36.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.7 times value. He's 7,700 FanDuel salary and 500 more on DraftKings. But the reason that I like this pick is because Devin Booker has scored 46, 47, and 49 fantasy points in his last 3 games versus the Portland Trailblazers. So he hasn't really had one of those big 40, 50 point fantasy point games in a while. Well, let's take a look here. His last 5 games, yeah, he hasn't hit 50 fantasy points in quite a while. I think he can actually get close to 50 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Devin Booker here versus the Portland Trailblazers. Okay, another shooting guard that I like is Eric Gordon. Now, this is a FanDuel only play for me. Eric Gordon from the Houston Rockets playing the Chicago Bulls, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and although they've been pretty good versus opposing shooting guards, Eric Gordon has averaged 26.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He scored 23 and 41 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 33 and 34 minutes. He's projected at 28.5 fantasy points here tonight. On FanDuel, that's 5.4 times value. He's only $5,300 FanDuel salary, but he is $1,000 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game. So I like Eric Gordon on FanDuel here versus the Chicago Bulls. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $100 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won, and then we'll send you $100 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Gordon Hayward from the Charlotte Hornets playing the Utah Jazz, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing small forwards, but Gordon Hayward has averaged 36.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He scored 27 and 30 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 32 and 35 minutes. He's projected at 35.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's $7,100 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings. He scored 48 fantasy points in his last game versus the Utah Jazz, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 228.5 points scored in this game. So I like Gordon Hayward here versus the Utah Jazz. Okay, another small forward that I like is Carmelo Anthony from the Portland Trailblazers playing the Phoenix Suns, who have a good defense overall, and they've been middle of the pack defending opposing small forwards. Carmelo Anthony has averaged 23.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 25 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He scored 21, 17, and 24 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 24, 19, and 27 minutes. He's projected at 22.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.9 times value. He's $4,700 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings. Now, Carmelo Anthony has scored 43, 13, 20, 48, and 18 fantasy points in the last 5 games versus the Phoenix Suns. So it looks like he's kind of a boom or bust player here versus the Suns. But I like that he got 2 games that he got over 40 fantasy points, 2 out of the last 5 versus the Suns, over 40 fantasy points. So we're looking for him to at least get 25 fantasy points in this one and get you over 5 times value. Now Vegas thinks there's going to be 230 points scored in this game, so that's a high scoring game. This is a nice game to stack. So I like Carmelo Anthony here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I like Kristaps Porzingis from the Dallas Mavericks playing the Memphis Grizzlies, who have the 12th worst defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing power forwards. Kristaps Porzingis has averaged 36.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 28% usage rate. He scored 36, 47, and 23 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 31, 32, and 19 minutes. He's projected at 36.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.7 times value. He's 7,800 FanDuel salary and 700 more on DraftKings. So I like that FanDuel price. Now, the reason I like this pick is because Porzingis scored 65 and 58 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Grizzlies. So that is outstanding player versus team history. So I like Kristaps Porzingis here versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, I'm going to give you a value play here. Another power forward that I like is Dario Saric from the Phoenix Suns playing the Portland Trailblazers, who have the 11th worst defense overall, and they give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Dario Saric has averaged 18.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 18 minutes per game with a 26% usage rate. He scored 21, 7, and 17 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 19, 10, and 13 minutes. He's projected at 17.3 fantasy points here tonight. Now on FanDuel, that's only 4.3 times value because he's 4,000 FanDuel salary, but he's 400 less on DraftKings. And the reason that I like this pick is because he scored 43, 45, 3, 27, and 18 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Portland Trailblazers. So we got another high risk, high reward, low salary play though on DraftKings. Boom or bust, tournament play only. But I like Dario Saric here versus the Portland Trailblazers. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the center position. I like Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz playing the Charlotte Hornets, who have the 4th worst defense overall, and they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Rudy Gobert has averaged 39.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. He scored 34, 55, and 33 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 31 minutes in each of those games. He's projected at 40.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 8,100 FanDuel salary, and he's 700 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. He's always underpriced on DraftKings. I think he makes a fantastic DraftKings play here tonight. He scored 39, 52, 51, 48, and 53 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Charlotte Hornets. So he's just way underpriced on DraftKings. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 228.5 points scored in this game. Great matchup, excellent player versus team history. So I like Rudy Gobert here versus the Charlotte Hornets. Okay, I'm going to give you a value play here. At the center position, I like Robin Lopez from the Washington Wizards playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing centers. But Robin Lopez has averaged 16.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 20 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate. But take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 34, 16, and 17 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 27, 26, and 20 minutes. So his last 2 games, the minutes that he played are way up from his season average. So we want him to be playing at least 25 minutes here in this game. And he's projected at 18.4 fantasy points here tonight. Now on FanDuel, that's only 4.4 times value because he's 4,200 FanDuel salary, but he's 400 less on DraftKings. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 226 points scored in this game. So this is a high risk, high reward play, probably a DraftKings value play for me only, but I like Robin Lopez here versus the LA Lakers. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.